Okay, Parth, if possible, you can also become visible. Okay, thank you. Well, I have become habitual of seeing you.
Same here, sir.
Okay, okay. Now, so let us do the topics in a very simplified manner, and we will be able to connect the classes that we have done so far, the knowledge, the content that you already have, how to use them, how to utilize that. Now, when we are going to start with the topic is, so there is no path to happiness, and happiness itself is a path. So no path to happiness. So that means we can divide this topic into two parts. First of all, no path to happiness. Let us see the first part. No path. That means there is no dedicated path. So there is no dedicated path, or maybe no dedicated road, or maybe a highway, which you can start walking or driving and reach the destination called happiness. So there is no dedicated. So there is no dedicated path, no dedicated road, no dedicated highway, which you start walking, we start cycling, which you start driving, so that you are going to reach the destinations. So that means this is actually wrong. Yes. So there is no defined path. So when you see the other part, happiness is the path. When I talk about happiness is the path. So here, let me add one more word. It's basically discovery of happiness is the path. Discovery of a happiness is the path. That means it starts with a journey. That journey may not be having defined route. The journey may not be having defined route, but it should be culminating in happiness. It should be ending up in happiness. So discovery of happiness is the path, means it is symbolizing a journey. It is symbolizing a journey. And this journey is comprising of various processes, various actions, various corrections, various processes, various actions, various corrections, and improvements. So the first part of the topic is saying there is no defined path to reach a goal called happiness, but happiness itself is a journey. So discovery of happiness is a journey, which is laying down the path of what? Processes, actions, corrections, improvements. Finally, it should be ending up with what? Happiness. So it should be ending up with happiness. Now, now let us start about using the knowledge here that we have gained so far. Let us see what are the various scholars, various what thinkers, philosophers speak about this journey. So I'm going to start with what happiness according to scholars. Yeah. So that means, first of all, what we need to do, normally, 4 of my students are writing the mains examination this year, and 3, I am completely confident they will be clearing the examination. And now what they have been doing is they performed well so far till the GS papers. Now only the option paper and the language papers are remaining. Now, when I talk about how they actually approach the paper, yes. So they have studied with me, so I have been guiding them, and they are using the knowledge and content that we have derived over a period of time. Now, what they do actually, once they are having the essay paper, naturally, first thing is you need to filter down which topic to write in section A and section B. Now, but the next most important thing, once you have what zeroed down or selected a topic, do not jump into writing. That means you have got around 90 minutes to write an essay. So 90 minutes means one of the girls, Muskan, what she does is she is planning for 20-25 minutes properly. She planned for 20-25 minutes. That means properly sequencing, properly thinking about the examples. And once everything has been properly sequenced, then she starts writing. Because when we know that when we have a plan, when we got a sequence, it's easy to write faster then. Yeah. So that means the most important thing is planning. So now, let us plan for this essay now first. So we are talking about this no dedicated path to happiness. That means discovery of happiness is a path. and which should be comprising of various actions, corrections, and improvements. Now, we have done ethics in the class, so we have done various philosophers. So that means let's start with what Aristotle. Now, happiness according to scholars. So Aristotle's ethics is based on the idea that the purpose of human life is to achieve eudaimonia. So eudaimonia means happiness. So what is the purpose of life according to Aristotle? Is to achieve happiness. It's also known as well-being. So the purpose of life. So that means life is a journey. So purpose of life, the purpose of human life. So life is a journey. So that's why happiness is a journey. Okay, which should be ending up with what? Realizing the happiness. That is eudaimonia or well-being. Now, how this happiness is achieved? So it is a state of living in accordance with reason and virtue. That means happiness is a path, is getting opened up with more reason, that is rationality, and virtue, that is high moral actions. Okay, high moral actions, that is rationality and high moral actions. High moral actions. So according to Aristotle, purpose of the human life, that is journey of human life, is achieving happiness. And that path of happiness can be opened up by having more rationality, reason, and having high moral standards. Now, happiness as a path also opens up when a person is able to fulfill one's potential. So happiness as a path also opens up when the person fulfills one's potential, and also the purpose as a human being. The purpose as a human being. Happiness as a path is also able to be achieved or able to be worked out if the person is able to receive basic amenities. So basic amenities is the start of happiness. So basically, that is your food, clothing, shelter, your security, your relationships, your friend, your job security. That means all those things are the basic necessities. So the basic necessities are the start of what? Happiness as a path. Very clear. So this is as per the Aristotle. Now, basic necessities, can we connect with what? Maslow's need of hierarchy. So we have done Maslow's need of hierarchy. It is also talking about gradual rise of an individual towards self-actualization, means achieving full potential. Okay. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So now, first of all, Aristotle is opening up this. Now, basic necessities, I'm going to connect with what? Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is also laying the path of happiness. Now, it is talking about first basic requirement is the physiological needs. That is a basic need, okay, which are instant in nature. That is sleep, satisfying hunger, reproduction. All these are physiological needs. Then safety and security, love and belonging, and finally self-actualization. That is realizing true potential. So it is also talking about a journey. So hence, happiness is a path. Happiness is a path starting from what? Fulfilling the physiological needs, achieving safety and security, love and belongingness. That means respect from the society, family, relationships. Self-esteem means recognition. And finally, self-actualization means realizing your true self. That means your true potential. So again, it becomes a journey. So happiness is a path. Now, let us connect with what more thought processes. Happiness is a path. Okay, HIAP. Happiness is a path. So happiness is a path. Can also be laid down by 4 noble truths of Buddha. So Buddha stated that, first of all, we have to accept that everyone has to suffer. Buddha then talks about we need to find the real causes. Okay. then work for the solutions. That means the first truth is suffering. That means everyone has to suffer, has to be recognized. So this is start of your correction. So this is start of your actions and related corrections and improvements. Actions, corrections, and improvements. So first of all, first of the recognition is that everyone has to go through certain form of sufferings. Now, second is identify the root causes. Identify the root causes. That is origin of suffering. Then we have to take actions. For what? Cessation of sufferings, means ending those sufferings. So first of all, accept that everyone has to suffer. There will be difficulties. Identify the root causes of difficulties. Then take actions to end the sufferings. And fourth is it itself will be ending towards happiness. That is why Buddha talked about, so how to achieve this? How to achieve this in a manner where happiness is the end result. Happiness will be the end result when middle path is being followed. So middle path is avoiding extreme indulgence and also extreme what? Penance on the other side. Because these two are what? First of all, extreme penance or asceticism is impossible for the common people. It will lead to hardships because this can be only for the true monks or the true sages who can penance and achieve this level. And that comes with enormous sufferings, not happiness. An extreme indulgence is what? Greed. And we know the greed is endless, and desire for more and more, desire for more money, more wealth, more bigger things, more better things is an endless exercise. It always leads to what? Unending unending what? Sadness. Because there's always a desire which is keeping away the people from what? Realization of happiness. So extreme indulgence also leads to a degree of sadness because this is filled with greed. And severe asceticism is only for the real monks and sages. It's not for the common people. So what is the way out? Way out is avoiding these two extremes. That means happiness is the path. Happiness is the path which results from what? Sustainability. So happiness is the path which is achieved from sustainability. So sustainability, that is the middle path, which can provide the methods, which can provide the means to ultimately achieve the basic requirements, and may also help in what? Making the humanity better, and also leads to self-actualization. So sustainability. And now this sustainability or this better approach can be the result of what? Eightfold path now. Clear? So that means when you talk about Buddha, so Buddha is saying that happiness is a path which results from what? Identification of Four Noble Truth, where the people should be moving towards middle path, that is sustainability, by adoption of what? Eightfold path in Buddhism. And we all know, so right understanding of the issues around us will be providing us a right thought. So right thought will lead to better conscience. Right thought will lead to right speech, right actions, right livelihoods, that is right way of doing the things, earning the money, right efforts, right mindfulness, and right concentration on the problems that we are facing, so that we are able to work out the solutions. That means, so Aristotle was talking about that purpose of life is to generate happiness. So hence happiness becomes a path. Now that can be achieved with reason, rationality, and what? High moral virtues. Now this can also be achieved by realizing true potential. This can also be achieved by fulfilling basic needs. So this almost what can be mirrored or exemplified through what? Maslow's need of hierarchy. Now, when we talk about Indian context, Buddha, the Four Noble Truth, then middle adoption of middle path, and finally working according to Eight Noble Path is going to create happiness as a path. Very clear? Now, we have done a topic called poverty in the class. In the social justice part, we have done a poverty in the class. So when we are dealing with the issue of poverty, how the poverty can be eradicated, how the GDP growth, which should be made inclusive, can result in what? Gross domestic happiness also. That means GDP means gross domestic product should also be culminating into gross domestic happiness. And that means through inclusive economic growth, which is going to provide livelihoods to all, generating basic happiness. So according to Adam Smith, no society can surely be flourishing and happy. Means nobody can be happy, of which far greater part of the people are poor and miserable. So this means happiness is a path, HIAP, results from eradication of poverty and misery. Of poverty and misery. Of poverty and misery. So happiness is a path results from eradication of poverty and misery, according to Adam Smith now. Again, very clear? That means we have to work out our economy. We have to create a path of the economy in such a manner, which is going to create inclusive economic growth, in which the GDP expansion of the economy is inclusive in nature, which is going to create livelihoods for variety of people, to all types of people, so that the people are able to earn, fulfill basic necessities, and that is the start of happiness. Clear? So this is again talking about a path. Now, when the world has adopted Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, so SDGs are also indicative of what? Happiness is a path which can be achieved by fulfilling these goals. So happiness is a path is going to be achieved by fulfilling these goals. Now, for example, let's see. So when we talk about ending poverty, definitely is starting a path towards happiness. Ending hunger is starting a path towards happiness. Okay. Good health, education, gender equality, clean water, sanitation, better economic growth, sustainable cities, sustainable environment, land, water. All this is a start. All this is a start and creating a path towards happiness. Clear? So I'm not using anything that we have not covered in the class. Okay? We have covered all these, and you know all these things. Further, drafting of Constitution of India, which is emphasizing democracy for all, is also creating a path, okay, towards happiness. Yes, so happiness is a path. So that means when we implement the guidelines of the Constitution of India, it leads to creating happiness as a path. That means when we strengthen justice, that is social, economic, and political for all, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, so liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and opportunity, and all these will lead to finally fraternity. So fraternity ultimately symbolizes a happy society. So fraternity, so Constitution of India, that is democracy for all, when we apply the vision of the preamble of the Constitution, that is justice, liberty, equality, opens up the path, that is happiness is the path towards happiness, resulting in what? Fraternity. So fraternity is symbolic of what? Coexistence, symbolic of collaboration, acceptance of acceptance of diversity, coexistence, collaboration, acceptance of diversity. And this is the state of a happy society. The state of a happy society. And yes, a happy nation. A happy nation. A happy society and a happy nation. Now when we talk about Rabindranath Tagore. Now, according to Rabindranath Tagore, happiness is a path can be opened up by education. Now, what type of education? The education which is not going to provide us just information, but makes our life in harmony with all existence. That means happiness is a path can be opened up by an education which is going to create harmony with all existence. Harmony with all existence. That is our fellow human beings, which is symbolic of fraternity, the flora, that is the vegetation, the fauna, that is the animal kingdom, the environment that we live in. That means it is symbolic of harmony with all existence, and our existence is safeguarding planet Earth. So when the planet Earth is happy, so the people will also become happy. So again, this is a journey of creating coexistence with the humanity, creating coexistence with the flora and fauna, safeguarding the ecology, which also requires a thing called environmental ethics. So all these are going to open up the happiness as a path, education. Now, and the concept comes from what? Vasudev Kutumbakam, yes, which talks about that world is one family. Then when the world is merging as a one family, where the wars are declining, where the nations believe in coexistence, collaboration, support, gradually that is opening up the path towards happiness. Okay. That means idea of universal brotherhood and the unity of life. So the topic was saying there is no defined path, but discovery of happiness itself is a path. And discovery of happiness itself is a path. We have seen various scholars, various thinkers, what they have ultimately stated with respect to their IQ and understanding. Very clear. Now this is going to be. Now, when we convert all this into introduction, so let's read an introduction now. So happiness is the path, is the concept of eudaimonia. So we are taking from Aristotle now. So happiness is the path, which is the concept of eudaimonia, that is happiness for all, that is creating happiness or well-being as stated by Aristotle. So happiness as a path is the concept of eudaimonia, that is creating happiness or well-being as stated by Aristotle. And how this is going to be created? So happiness is the path requires inclusion of the concept of utilitarianism, that is creating the maximum benefit to maximum people. Maximum benefit to maximum people, as popularized by Jeremy Bentham. So these are things we have done in the ethics classes. Now, as a path, it symbolizes a process of actions, corrections, and improvements. So happiness as a path is characterized by taking actions for betterment, corrections if we are doing something wrong, and regular improvements. So it is a pursuit. It is a pursuit which is evident in the concepts of Buddha's Four Noble Truths. Four Noble Truths. It is a pursuit. So it's a pursuit, yes, pursuit of happiness, which is evident in the concept of Buddha's Four Noble Truths, middle path of avoiding two extremes, and adoption of eightfold path. Now, it is visible in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Again, it is talking about happiness as a path which can lead to self-actualization, that is realizing true happiness. which leads to self-actualization, that is fulfilling one's potential and purpose as a human being. Now, happiness is a path is there in the vision of the Constituent Assembly of India, which by analyzing the reasons of past socio-economic and political inequalities, reasons visualized to create a strong India by adopting the Constitution with the preamble which became reflective of happiness of the path which can emerge by justice, liberty, equality, and finally realizing fraternity. Clear? So now the things are coming sequentially in the form of an introduction. Okay, those who are not having the handout, do not worry. I just drop me a message after the class. I will be sharing it. So justice, social, economic, and political. So now, so fraternity. So it is a path. It is a path with the symbol of peace and values education. So let us connect with Rabindranath Tagore. So Rabindranath Tagore was talking about an education which creates harmony. So which type of education can create harmony? The peace and value education, which is even emphasized in what? National education policy. So it is a path which is symbol of peace and values education as stated by Rabindranath Tagore. That is harmony with humanity, flora, fauna, and environment. Now, when you talk about Adam Smith, it is a path which is there in the concept of inclusive growth. As stated by in his quote, this, in short, elimination of poverty and misery. So happiness is a path which is symbolized by elimination of poverty and misery. Further, globally with the adoption of SDGs, the process of actions, corrections, and improvements were delivered to the countries or are delivered to the countries. Okay. That means start applying these to right actions, corrections, and improvements. Happiness is the path will be emerging. I hope this is the way you can shape it now. Now that means when we are opened up in such a manner, now you have to talk about actions and corrections which are required to be taken with respect to all of these. Okay, now you have to explain them in detail in the main body. So in the main body, happiness is the path opens up by converting the above into actions now. And for that, we are developing notes in the class. For example, strengthening of democracy is going to open the path towards lasting happiness. So strengthening of democracy, we are doing what the reforms in the governance part. Strengthening of democracy can be improved by political party reforms, electoral reforms, okay, civil service reforms, civil society reforms, okay, where all these stakeholders. So strengthening of democracy when the reforms in both state and non-state actors, both state and non-state actors functioning. So when we reform the functioning of both state and non-state actors, happiness as a path emerges. Very clear? Now, further inclusive economic growth. So we have done this in the poverty class by focusing on what? Right triggers of economy. Right triggers of economy. Akash and others, do not worry, you will getting all these after the prelims class next year. Yes, you will getting all these. So right triggers of economy. So when I talk about right triggers of economy, so we know that we need to focus on the bottom of the pyramid where the people are mostly unskilled to semi-skilled. We have done that method. And that will be opening up the opportunities for demand for various products and services in the economy, giving rise to entrepreneurship, even giving rise to opportunities for the educated class to find work and even start their own startups. We have talked about. So starting what? Agriculture, starting with tourism, starting with manufacturing. We have done all these in a very sequential manner. Now, middle part through green economy, environmental ethics and minimalism. Again, we have discussed this in the class. Promotion of virtues through peace and value education. We have talked about Value-based education classes we have done in the essays, how that can be done. Environmental justice, global peace and cooperation. Yes, global peace and cooperation we have not yet done because we have not covered IR. Yes, we have not covered IR. But global peace and cooperation can be strengthened. That was thought on the basis of coming of non-aligned movement. So when the World War ended, when the world was divided into two compartments, the communist versus capitalist, that means to provide a balance to the world, non-aligned movement emerged. Yes. That means the purpose was creating global peace and cooperation, what assisting the developing countries, the countries still in the colonial rule to emerge into independence, okay? And hence creating an alternative which is not siding with any two major powerful blocks. Yes. Stability. And even global peace and cooperation can still be achieved by UNSC reforms when it becomes more democratic in nature. So we'll talk about all these things in the IR classes. But what we have gained so far, that means majority of the content is there in that we have covered in last 3 months. Only the thing that you need to understand is how to decode the topic. So the most important thing with respect to essays is only decoding the topic. And once you decode, then start sequencing the thing. That's why I always say to the students that do not rush into writing essay in one sitting. Do not do it as of now. First of all, visualize an essay. Create what points and the examples that come to your mind, jot them down. Then once you have properly thought about that, then start with the introduction and stop after introduction. Do not write the main body. What I suggest is write the main body next day. Maybe by the next day, more points will be coming to your mind. Okay. Then frame the topic in at least 2 or 3 sittings. Then the better essay will be coming out. So do not think that you write in 90 minutes. You are not yet reached that level of 90 minutes. So conclusion. So when we take actions on all the above, so all the above stated actions can lead to rise in global happiness index, which is symbolic of happiness, is a path which emerges from reason, virtue, and right actions. Okay. This we can expand in the conclusion also. Very clear? So hence we have proved that happiness is a path which requires various actions, corrections, and improvements. Yes, I.
So all the points given in the main body, it talks about the things that can happen from the society's point of view. So what about the approach from individuals?
See,
They talk.
when we're talking about peace and value education, we are targeting the individuals only. Okay, so that means by upgrading the thinking, the understanding, the maturity, the scientific temper of the individuals, they will be becoming the contributor in strengthening all the institutions in the country, whether political, economic, social, and environmental.
Got it.
Okay. Now, so this was the gist. Yes. Now, second is the doubter is a true man of science. So doubter. So who is a doubter? The doubter is who believes in critical analysis. Who believes in critical analysis is a doubter. Now, that's why even when we talk about UPSC questions, UPSC topics are also based on what? Critically analyze, critically examine. So critical analysis, so doubter. So this person is not taking anything. Yes, it's not, so put across, it's not taking anything on face value. Always question. It's not taking anything on the face value. Always question. Yes, have a questioning mind. So as to find the real roots of the particular situation or an issue, any problem. Always question. And this critical analysis work in two manner. One is also self-examination, also examining oneself also. Also having more self-knowledge, knowing about oneself, so that we improve as a person. So improve as a person. improve as a person. So this critical analysis, questioning even oneself, and also questioning the status quo of problems, okay, and working out the solutions, ask questions, raise issues, demand actions. So doubter, that means we are talking about a man of science. Science means scientific temper. Science means scientific temper. So scientific temper. So scientific temper, promotion of scientific temper is one of the fundamental duties in the Constitution. One of the fundamental. So that means the person who doubts keeps on self-examination, questioning everything which is status quo, even questioning one's own knowledge, how I am going to improve as a person or not, always working on one thing that is called, always working on what? SWOT. Strength, identifying the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities and threat. And this means personal also and everything surrounding that person, whether something in the political realm, the social realm, the economic realm, the environmental realm, that means anything. So anything which requires what corrections will always be raising a question, raising the issue, demanding the solution, and also working for the solution. So that means, so that person who has got the capability of analyzing the thing is a true man of science or true person of science. Clear? So this we have done in what again? The ethics class. Now let's talk about the Socrates. The Socrates believed that the most important knowledge is self-knowledge. And the unexamined life is not worth living. The person who is not examining, who is not doing self-analysis, who is not asking questions, even to oneself and to others, is not worth living. It's not worth living. That means it is even emerging from the thoughts of the Socrates. Socrates stated that I know nothing. That means he was talking about that he has got a very little knowledge. And I know that. This clearly means that I want to improve. So this is talking about self-examination. Means accepting that I know nothing. That means I've got a very shallow knowledge and I need to learn. I need to improve. Even about oneself and even about the happenings around me or us. So we should accept we know, may not be knowing everything. Yes. The people who know everything are a different category altogether because they are just termed as fools. You know? Okay, so that means the intelligent people are those, rational people are those who accept their gaps in learning and on who want to work out the improvement. And their what demanding of more knowledge, their search for more knowledge leads to innovations, actions, and improvement for all. Now, even the best example you can quote is M.K. Gandhi's My Experiment with Truth. And this can be converted into the introduction also, like M.K. Gandhi. My Experiments with Truth is a classic example of self-examination, self-realization, and self-correction. It is highly personal and honest, with Gandhi admitting to his mistakes, doubts, failures along the way. He doesn't present himself as a saint, but a fallible human being, constantly working to live by the ideals of truth and non-violence. His openness about his imperfections gives the book a unique authenticity. The book focuses on Gandhi's personal journey, documenting his evolving understanding of truth. That means he was improving through self-correction, morality, improving through self-correction, practicing non-violence, improving through practice, and how these principles shaped his life and activism. Okay. So similarly, now after opening with this, now we are going to add on the Socrates. Okay. So knowledge is self-knowledge, and unexamined life is not worth living. That is most important thing is recognition that we need to improve as a human being. So here, so now when we have opened up with these two, now I'm giving a general statement. So who are now doubters? So doubters are the people who have challenged the status quo, who challenge the status quo on the basis of critical analysis by using reason, that is their rationality, as a virtue, yes, as a means of creating virtue, that is good moral actions, and not falling into trap of conformity. Yes, that means not falling into trap of that you have to conform only with the status quo, not falling into that trap. And hence challenged oneself, they have challenged themselves also, and also challenged the society and the humanity to think and act differently, and thus became the initiators of change. So all the changes in the world throughout human history have been created by the people who are challenging the status quo, who are always doubters. For example, doubters are visible in the history of human development as they were or are philosophers, scientists, inventors, discoverers, explorers, social reformers, conservationists, and political statespersons. We always challenge the status quo, always question. Very clear. Now, that means now you've got enormous examples to quote and explain. We've got enormous examples. Now, for example, when I talk about Ashoka, after the Battle of Kalinga, he started to self-doubt. What is the use of so much of bloodshedding? That means he moved from the Beri Ghosh to Dhamma Ghosh. So he challenged himself. Yes, the concept of the conquest he had changed. The concept of the conquest he challenged. The concept of the conquest is not killing people. The conquest of the people is to love. That is Dhamma. So from Beri Ghosh to Dhamma Ghosh. Now Buddha. Buddha was born in luxury. And when he saw misery in the world around him, he tried to challenge that. Yes, he tried to challenge that. He tried to challenge that. He abandoned his own luxury and tried to work out for the solutions. So he was born in luxury, he saw misery, and he tried to work down the solutions for that. And he came up with what? All those Four Noble Truth, okay, Middle Path, Eight Noble Fold Path, all these. Now, when we talk about John Locke. Now, John Locke ultimately gave a new concept of what? Popular sovereignty. He challenged monarchy. And we know monarchy was an institution that was in place for almost 3,000, 4,000 years with full might and strength. So he challenged, John Locke challenged the status quo of monarchy and came up with the idea of what? Popular will, of popular sovereignty. That is elected governments. John Locke. Now, when we talk about existentialism, that is Jean-Paul Sartre. He was talking about individualism. He was talking about the person should be defining his or her own path, not falling into the conformity of the society always. He was talking about individualism, which is a challenge to what? Social conformity. Individualism, which is a challenge to social conformity. The challenge to social conformity. Individualism is a challenge to social conformity. But he gave one caution here. The one caution was, if you are choosing your own path on the basis of your free will, that path should also be having responsibility towards others. That should not mean you should be ending up with the selfish goals by harming others. So that first of all, he talked about challenging the status quo, not falling into conformity. Person should be having individual freedom to choose their own path or career or maybe the future life. Hence challenge the status quo, but with the condition that free will should also be leading towards responsibility. Now, Karl Marx challenged exploitative capitalism by giving a different idea. about ownership of the production by the people themselves, by the workers themselves. Karl Marx. Now, when you talk about the Mahatma Gandhi, MK Gandhi, challenged the violence which was the norm with the non-violence. Now, let's talk about the idea of non-violence emerging in an era where everything was settled by violence. World War was going on, World War One. The entire world believed in what? Violence against each other. Violence was heroism. Is a symbol of a hero. Yes, violence means symbol of a hero. But here challenging the status quo violence as a means for achieving maybe anything. And he came up with the concept completely different, non-violence, satyagraha, challenge the status quo. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So emerging from the class which was considered untouchable, but rising in the hierarchy on the basis of education, challenging the status quo of the society, that being a Dalit, being untouchable, considered in the society, he rose to the topmost of education. And his concept of breaking the caste system was what? Interdining and intermarriages. That means he was challenging the status quo on the basis of interdining and intermarriages. Interdining and intermarriages. Now, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, by going through the Vedas and the ancient literature and text, by reading that ancient text, he challenged the people who practiced and believed and promoted sati, that nowhere in the Vedas or nowhere in the ancient religious text, the sati has been what? Sanctified. So use that. So challenge the status quo. Swami Vivekananda challenged the purpose of religion. Purpose of religion is not dogmas, rituals, and customs. He was talking about a religion which believed in universal brotherhood. He talked about that all the religions preach the same thing, that is coexistence. Only the manipulation of religion that creates problem. So Swami Vivekananda's concept of true religion is rooted in the belief that religion is not merely a set of doctrines, rituals, and practices, but a universal experience of the divine and a realization of the unity of all human beings. Aristotle challenged the concept of flat earth by his what? Intuition and idea. While observing the lunar eclipses, noticed that Earth's shadow on the moon was circular, which indicated that there would have been a circular Earth. Started to challenge. So what we are talking about is, there have been what? The entire human development throughout the human history has always been created by doubters. Because they have thought differently and they put logic and facts. Even Alfred Wegener, you must have heard about continental drift theory. So that means the lithosphere was seen as static, but he challenged that. And he came up with the theory. Charles Darwin, theory of evolution. Woodrow Wilson, after the end of the First World War, which led to what? Huge violence across the world wars, he came up with the idea of what? Global government in the form of League of Nations. Global government and League of Nations for containing wars. League of Nations, which emerged after the Paris Treaty in 1919. So Woodrow Wilson was the president of US. After the First World War, he came with the concept of League of Nations. That means a system which is almost working like a global government, preventing future wars. NAM was a challenge to the powerful blocks. Capitalists versus communist. Hence came with the concept what? A third world, which is symbolic of NAM. That we are not going to align with any of these two blocks, but that is challenging the status quo, which was emerging into the world. Either you have to be with the capitalist or you will be with the communists. Similarly, the constitution drafters of India also challenge the status quo of what? Inequalities. Challenge the status quo of what? Rigid caste system. What deprivation of the women from education. Yes, so they brought a system of what changes in the constitution, which will be applied in an independent India, which is going to what challenge the status quo of what past inequalities. Now, even this is very interesting. Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa. Now, when the South Africa came out from apartheid in 1994, Nelson Mandela became the president. That means in order to what bring peace and normalcy in a divided nation between blacks and whites, he promoted a system of what mutual pardon. That means the oppressors and the victims were called together, the families were called together, and then that means they were made to what pardon each other, yes, in front of what, so as to create conciliation rather than creating more animosity on the basis of past hatred. So Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So that means not after becoming independent, not ill-treating the whites, but creating a condition in which the society is going to restart in a better manner by TRC method, where both the sides, the oppressors of both the sides, victims of both the sides are going to pardon each other. So all the above examples clearly signify that the importance of self-doubt and critical analysis to be generated in the masses to create all-round benefits for humanity. So we know that the doubters are required in the society. We know doubters are required in society. Who's going to challenge? Who's going to bring new ideas? Who's going to suggest new solutions? We require doubters in society. That means we need to generate more doubters in the society. We have to promote more freedom of speech and expression, more ideas in the society, rather than what maintain the status quo, stop questioning, curtailing freedom of speech and expression. Okay, that means we have to create an environment of what creating more doubters. So the method here is, for example, Albert Einstein, a type of education which is not merely based on what rote learning, not the learning of facts, but the training of mind to think. That is thinking minds. Thinking minds can be original thinking, can be critical thinking, can be independent thinking. That means doubters can be created when we are going to what? Create an education system which is going to create thinking minds. Nelson Mandela, when education becomes a powerful tool or weapon to can change the world, that is to bring the solutions for all the problems that we are facing socially, politically, economically, environmentally. It should be converted into weapon of change. Now, even instructions end in the schoolroom, but education ends only with life. That means we should be creating a system what? Self-learning, self-examination, continuous learning, so that the people are going to become aware and hence start to understand the things better. Try to what? Make their own effort in improving the situation around them. Yes. That means always creating a system of what? Self-correction, self-improvement. And now this we have done in detail, how this can be done in the classes. We have done in the classes. Promotion of conceptual and multidisciplinary education. Activity-based learning we have done through sports, to cultural activities, so as to open up the thinking of the people, bringing people together, creating a more collaborative society, more understanding society, more inclusive society. We talked about SUPW, socially useful productive work. That means the youngsters working in in the communities. We talked about doctors working in rural areas. We talked about law interns working in the communities to guide them on legal issues. We talked about the management professionals helping in rural marketing or what marketing of the rural products, cottage industry projects. That means bringing the educated students from in the urban areas to the rural communities, bringing them a connection so that both the sides learn from each other. So urban people will be shedding their biases, will be understanding the grassroots realities, and the people at the grassroots will be getting addressed with new knowledge emerging in the universities and colleges. That means that is going to create what changes, because the people will be questioning the status quo by knowing the realities. Hence, creating education as a tool for lifelong learning. We talked about a thing called keep on continuous learning on the basis of IEC methods: information, education, communication. Open the mind of the people, they will be the problem solver for themselves. Yes. So open up the mind. So that means why they will become the problem solver? Because once they're getting more information, more education, and better communication on right issues, they will start self-doubting. Once they start doubting, that means they will start moving towards improvements. So method. And these methods, we have to explain them in detail in the main body. Okay. Even the above examples are the part of the main body. So what you can do is half the part of the main body, which is comprising of around what 800 words. Okay. So half the words will be 400 words will be on the examples that we have discussed. And half the words you can explain how this can be promoted by creating more doubters in the society. So what will the lasting benefits? It will move from ignorance to enlightenment. It can be a nemesis. It can destroy fake information because the real information reaching people, becoming more aware, they can themselves deal with the fake information by having more critical analytical powers. Okay. So fake information can only be killed with what? Critical analysis. By doubting the information that the people are getting, by becoming doubters, by not taking anything on the face value. This can ultimately open up the minds to hence various problems linked with political systems, social systems, economic systems, environmental systems can be solved. And finally, emergence of a just souls, that is just people in a just society. Okay. So just soul and just society as stated by Plato. Very clear? Now this is a very interesting topic. Forest precede civilizations and deserts follow them. Now, for example, when I talk about human civilizations, the major civilization that we read, Indus Valley civilization, Sumerian, Mesopotamian, Egyptian civilization, Chinese civilizations. So civilizations are hardly about 5,000 to 6,000 years old civilizations. Okay. But when I talk about a forest, forests are millions of years old. So forests are basically preceding civilizations. That means so forests are basically the natural gift to the humanity. So these are the gift to humanity. And if you exploit them too much, it will lead to desertification. Clear? So it is talking about sustainability. So this topic is based on what? Sustainability. So because we have got the forest as a gift to the human civilization, we are dependent upon the forest in various manner. We are using them, we are utilizing them, but we are also exploiting them. More the exploitation will lead to desertification. And that will be creating the final problem for the entire humanity and the planet Earth. That means we have to find out the solution for that. That is sustainability. So let's see the tone and theme of the topic. Tone and theme of the topic is settled human civilizations are of recent origin. Hardly 3 to 4 millennium BCE. That is hardly 6,000 years, 5 to 6,000 years old. But forests are in existence from millions of years. That is, forests are preceding civilizations. Hence, what these forests are for the human civilizations? Forests are the most precious gift of nature. They are known as the lungs of the earth because they absorb carbon dioxide, release oxygen, similar to how human lungs work. The forests make our planet what? Inhabitable. So they are our best friends who gave us everything without asking for anything in return. So we are talking about a tone and theme of the topic. So here the tone or theme of the topic is sustainability and conservation. So what are the, now you're going to talk about forest precedes civilizations. So what are the benefits that we have got from forest? So first of all, talk about the benefits. Now in terms of, then we are talking about in terms of extracting more and more, what are the problems we are creating for the forest at large and the earth at large. And finally, lastly, what can be the solutions? So this will be testing your knowledge of environment. Yes. Okay. So here the forest benefit to human civilizations. So forest is a means of production. So when the human beings were hunters and gatherers, so from that time we are using forest. So human beings during the hunter and gatherer stage were completely dependent on forest for their survival. That is wood, fruits, berries, medicinal plants, animals for meat. Later, what happened? The forest resources transaction started. Initially, what barter system, then monetary also. So later started transaction forest products through barter and later through monetary transactions also. That means now the forest goods became products. That means now it is giving rise to what? Basic economy also. So even today, timber and non-timber products form important components of economic transactions and livelihoods. Many timber-based products are are basically the sources of raw material for various MSMEs, cotton industries like sports goods, eco-friendly products, packaging. Use of bamboo, jute, coir will now be more used in packaging for replacing single-use plastic. Okay. That means we have been extracting from the forest resources for basic manufacturing also in various forms. Now, but this is on not only direct benefits that we are taking from the forest wood as a benefit. Forests are indirectly providing various benefits for human activity, human economic activities. For example, forest and economic benefits, which are in broader terms. Mow the forest induce better rainfall, hence maintain water cycle. That means improve groundwater and availability of surface water. And we know when the water is there, water is used in various stages of manufacturing also. So water is linked with what various economic activities like manufacturing, agriculture. That means forests are acting as a source for provision of more water. Now they are acting as a carbon sink. So hence making our planet, yes, habitable properly. Now what is our target now? That we should be leaving behind the fossil fuel economy, moving towards the green economy. Now in this transition, it will be taking certain decades, 5 decades, 6 decades, 7 decades, 7 decades, or maybe a century properly. Now this decadal transformation time from what fossil fuels to the green economy is also going to be provided by the forest, because what will happening? The fossil fuel production and usage will be picking up, then it will declining fast. So as it will be picking up, more carbon emissions will be there. That means if there are wider forest cover, it will lead to carbon absorption. So that transition time is also provided to humanity by the forest only, by acting as a carbon sink. So absorb carbon emission, thus giving supportive time for humans to shift from fossil fuel economy to green economy. Yes, Akshay, Ubuntu, good. Now, let's talk about the agriculture productivity. So that means how the forest help. They bind the topsoil, prevent land degradation and desertification, add humus content, hence enriches the soil. Now, forests are the host for various pollinators, which help in what? Better food production. Mangroves prevent salinity in the coastal areas, influx of seawater destroying the farmlands. Agroforestry, again a mean of additional income, agriculture plus forestry. Provide cooling effect and thus saving energy, reduce economic cost. Construction material and also the places for recreation and tourism like national parks. Okay. So that means also provide what various economic benefits directly or indirectly. Now, what is the problem today we are facing? More economic development leading to forest degradation and now the issue of sustainability. So more economic development. So what is happening is for infrastructure, there is a more and more deforestation happening. More clearing of forest for commercial plantations like the palm oil plantations, agriculture land, clearing of forest for creating more pastures, ranch land or for the dairy farming. Okay. Haphazard urbanization, mining activities. Now climate change is also fueling what? Wide-ranging forest fires. Fuel wood consumption is still there in what? Poor countries, like African countries, even certain parts of India also. Overgrazing also leading to problem, destruction of forest, desertification. So that means more and more human economic activities which are not sustainable is also creating the major challenge in what? Conserving our forest cover. On the contrary, our activities we are leading towards more destruction of forest covers, means creating a condition of what? More desertification. So challenges. The scale of deforestation across the world is immense and continues to be a major environmental challenge. So now if you've got certain data, you can quote, for example, according to FAO, since 1990, around 42 lakh square kilometer of forest land has been lost, more than the size of India. 2015-20 in the 5 or 6 year period, average loss is what? 1 lakh square kilometer of forest cover each year. You can also mention the region where they are being more. South America, highest rate of deforestation largely for agriculture. For example, we talk about a country called Brazil. The Amazon jungles are termed as the lungs of what? Earth. Now that means an area of what? Forest covering 6 million square kilometer, means 60 lakh square kilometer. Then more and more clearing of the forest for the pasture land, for the ranches, for the agriculture production. During the previous president, Mr. Bolsonaro. So Bolsonaro, the previous president, current president is Mr. Lula da Silva. Yes. The previous president, Bolsonaro, was openly promoting what? Forest destruction for the farmlands. Now the current president has stopped that, but still is a challenge for conservation. Africa, deforestation is accelerating in West Africa, Congo Basin. Commercial logging is also taking place, and also small scale subsistence agriculture. Even clearing the forest for agriculture, like slash and burn agriculture, even for fuel wood. And when we talk about Southeast Asia, countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, Myanmar, rapid deforestation due to palm oil plantations. So what the world is saying, in the name of the economic development or the economic subsistence living, or maybe over exploitation for greed, what has happened is the destruction of forest, the speed has increased. Consequences, definitely climate change will be multiplying, biodiversity loss, impact of indigenous communities, they are forced to exile, soil erosion and water cycle disruption now, and it will lead to increasing desertification. So without trees to save the soil, deforested areas are prone to soil erosion, reducing land fertility and desertification. Now, so which are the areas again? Sahara Desert is rapidly expanding. Give an example, encroaching the Sahel region. So Sahel region is basically the middle area between the Sahara and the equatorial Africa. Okay, the Sahel region. Asia, particularly Central Asia, India, China faces severe desertification challenges. Latin America, Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, because more agricultural land, forests are getting cleared. Desertification. So now that means we are talking about, what we have talked about in this topic is, first of all, forests have been the gift. We are using the gift for our own benefit, but a time has come that we are over exploiting that. Now we are over exploiting that, it is leading to degradation. And more degradation, more exploitation will lead to complete desertification. So desertification will follow the civilizations. That means we have to create a stop somewhere. We have to create something called maybe a balance method, sustainability. Impact of desertification is, it is going to impact the food security because the food production will decline due to increased desertification. It will lead to economic impact because various people who are working in agriculture will be forced out from their livelihoods. Loss of biodiversity, so various species and plants will be lost. and more migration and social conflict. So what we are seeing is, aren't we reading on daily basis that people who are emerging from the poor parts of Africa are trying to cross a Mediterranean Sea on daily basis, entering Europe? That means it will lead to more and more migration, forced migration, social conflicts. So what are the solutions? Again, the concept of Vasudev Kutumbakam does not mean only what believing in what or really better relationship with humanity. It also talks about every living thing on this planet Earth. That is, Vasudev Kutumbakam reflects the belief that all living beings are interconnected and interdependent. So that extends beyond human relationships to include animals, plants, and environment. So recognizing the importance of living in harmony with nature. Okay? That means we need to quote that. Now, we have done certain things of what environmental ethics in class. That means what should be the focus area of human actions? The deep ecology. Deep ecology talks about that whatever the destructive things that we are doing so far with respect to nature, that should be stopped, and the method of doing things should be completely different, which should be sustainable. So deep ecology talks about radical shift in the way humans relate to nature. Radical shift. So it emphasizes the intrinsic value of all living beings and calls for profound transformation in human consciousness. Human consciousness, society, to create a more sustainable and harmonious relationship with the natural world. It's talking about, okay, whatever have been done, okay, let us leave it. Now start something which is completely different from the previous, which is more beneficial for all. So deep ecology encourages a more ecocentric view where humans recognize themselves just as a part of a larger life on this planet Earth, not that human beings are supreme, and adopt lifestyle that minimize the impact on the environment. So we have done a concept of green economy, stopping of fossil fuels. This is a radical shift from fossil fuels towards a greener sources. Now, concept of minimalism. That means moving away from the impulsive nature of buying anything. Yes. That means more what restrictive approach towards products, purchase, using them for a longer duration, maybe recycling them more, maybe reusing them for a longer duration time, believing in more repair and reuse rather than just buying and throwing. So minimalism. So minimalism encourage focusing on what truly matters by reducing distractions, and unnecessarily items should not be purchased. That means this is going to give sustainability. Conservation ethics. Conservation ethics talks about precautionary principles. What precautions should be taken, and that should be gauged in advance to prevent the destruction of any forest area, or maybe making any negative ecological impact. So conservation ethics focuses on the protection and preservation of natural resources, biodiversity, and ecosystem. So precautionary principles. So that's why precautionary principles are guiding us to create what? Create more and more Ramsar sites, are helping us in what? Creating more national parks, creating more wildlife sanctuaries, more protection of, what is that? Yes, biosphere reserves. Precautionary principle. That means due to our human greed, we should not be wiping out everything. There should be certain conservation areas. We should be creating what? Balance. So it is often guided by the principles such as precautionary principle, which advocates for caution in actions. And also the principle of intergenerational equity. That means we should not be destroying the planet as of now by the current generation, because the future generation will be requiring again the benefits from the earth and the natural resources. That means we should be creating a sustainability in such a manner, precautionary principles in such a manner that the future generations are also able to get benefit. Intergenerational equity. So conservation ethics can involve efforts to protect endangered species, conserve natural habitats, and promote sustainable land. Now you are going to talk about the actions. Now, global efforts, that means something coming from your environmental knowledge like the Bond Challenge. So Bond Challenge, that means to restore around 35 lakh square kilometer of degraded and deforested forest by 2030. Now, declaration of a UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, that is 2021 to 2030. Now, United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification is the primary global agreement addressing desertification. It aims to promote sustainable land management and restore degraded land. And even more tree plantations like the Great Green Wall Initiative in Africa, which is being planted across the Sahel region to stop the expansion of Sahara. Now, Belém Declaration. So, Belém is a city in Brazil. And here declaration linked with what? All the Amazon countries. All the Amazon countries, or the countries which have got Amazon forest. So, there are around 8 countries that is called Amazonian countries. And the Belém Declaration is conservation, focus on conservation and using of indigenous tribes who are living in the Amazon forest, their knowledge in what? Conservation, using their, so hence giving importance to the native tribes and their traditional knowledge of forest conservation. So it is a significant environmental and cultural agreement signed in July 1988. So it was a landmark document that highlighted the importance of traditional knowledge held by indigenous people. Now, the declaration emphasizes the need for greater recognition and protection of both biodiversity and indigenous rights. Now, what are the actions being taken in India? So I also now explain that. In India, for example, conservation of existing forest, what we are doing is we have what Forest Right Act. And the Forest Right Act, we are also focusing on the knowledge of tribals by considering them as the true residents and the owners of the forest produce. Forest Right Act. Now, India has done good in what? Creating more and more national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. Now, afforestation. So, we also need to create a green wall. Yes. Oh. Now, not a green wall, only a wall, but also what? Green spaces everywhere. For example, when you talk about a rural area, one of the best schemes that we can utilize for involving the community power in afforestation is MGNREGA. So, afforestation of degraded land, utilization of MGNREGA. Now, for the business houses or the manufacturing whose actions or whose projects may be leading to destruction of what existing trees, for them it should be made compensatory afforestation. So compensatory afforestation, that is social responsibility of business houses. Now, Miyawaki forest, these are the fast growing forest, especially for the urban landscape. Yes. So this also provides for green spaces, also cooling spaces, also green and also what green cover, which is also soothing for the eyes, reduces the stress for the urban residents. So Miyawaki forest, more forest cover for absorbing carbon. India's actions on green economy. Now, encouraging community role in conservation. Now, you can talk about that. Example of what? Chipko movement in Uttarakhand, where the community itself was promoting the conservation of the forest, non-destruction of the forest by preventing what? The loggers who are cutting the trees. That means, so hence, similarly, encouraging the role of the people in conservation. Now, this can be promoted more through what? Environmental education, environmental science and education, practically also in the schools and colleges. So, environmental conscious in school and education and in society. And regularly through, there should be community involved plantation drives. And this plantation, the community should be given responsibility for protection also. For protection also. So that means when we are talking about the global actions, the actions in India, these are the ways of what? Preventing what? Large scale destruction can also have what? The potential for regenerate the forest and can prevent desertification for the entire world. Very clear. I hope this you can write easily now. Now, this is a very interesting topic. Nearly all men can stand adversity, but to test the character, give him the power. Adversity are the problems. So that means people learn the abilities to survive and deal with the problems. Okay. That brings out the best from the people to survive in terms of facing problems. But when we talk about the man's character, the person's character, that means give him the power or give that person the power. So there will be two ways of what dealing with the power, or two examples which will be emerging. Power. Either the power will be corrupting absolutely, this can be one aspect. Either the power to any human being will be corrupting the person absolutely, or will be creating what? A person of power with responsibility. So power which corrupts absolutely leads to destruction, and power with responsibility leads to what? A better society, a better country. Better country, better society and better country. So there will be two ways of seeing what the power can do with the human aspect. Either will be destroying that person's mind completely, becoming corrupt absolutely, or if the person have got more inner conscience, sanity, will be using the power for larger benefits. Now, so let us first see the first part. Power tends to corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now, this is almost like a Machiavellian concept. So when we read Machiavellian or Machiavelli's concept about political theory or governance, he stated that the king or the people in power should be remaining in power at any cost, even if they have to use unethical means to remain in power. So this is a Machiavellian concept. So the symbolic of Machiavellian idea of political theory that we did in ethics class. So he states that ends justify the means. Here the end is remaining in power. And is remaining in power is the end. And justify the means any means can be used, whether ethical, unethical, to what? Maintain your stronghold of power and to remain in power forever. So Machiavelli is often associated with the idea of that end justify the means. He argued that in the realm of politics, the preservation of the state is the ultimate goal. State here means king's power, because we are talking about a person from the 16th century. That means a state of monarchy. And the ruler must be willing to use any means necessary, whether ethical or unethical, to achieve this end. So he was talking about open manipulations, unethical means which can be highly corrupt in terms of manipulation of people also, resources also. That means any form of misutilization of power is corruption. So Machiavelli's advice to ruler is marked by willingness to discard traditional moral constraints. He was openly talking about remove all morality. He believed that ruler must be pragmatic, sometimes using deception, manipulation, or cruelty to maintain power and order. So nature of power. So he was talking about power is control and create fear, and hence become more strong. It is bad, according to him, it is better for a ruler to be feared than loved. He argued that fear is more reliable means of maintaining control, as it does not depend upon the goodwill of subjects. So it was a period of what? Before the emergence of what? Popular sovereignty. But here this is a symbolic of what? If a person in power becomes corrupt, will be going the Machiavellian way. For example, Hitler. Now, on the other side, where the power has been used responsibly. Now, here again, there's a quote: with greater power comes greater responsibility. Is a proverb that means people with great abilities, people have got great abilities who are now having power, should use them for benefit of others. Very clear? So, two contrasting scenarios. Now, this is symbolic of what? Plato's Republic. So, Plato's book, Republic. So, he was talking about that the government or the king should be philosopher king. Philosopher king means who has got a vision for the future, who should be having the IQ, abilities, with what? Bringing benefits and concerns for the people, benefit to the society. The ideal ruler, according to Plato, is the philosopher king, a wise king, virtuous king, who has the knowledge of the good and governs not for personal gain, but for benefit of all. According to him, ethical governance is the just society is one in which each class performs its designated role in harmony with others, mirroring the just souls. Here we are not just talking about a person who is heading the most powerful institution. Power is required anywhere. Yes. Power in the family, power in the society, power in the community, power in running any small institution, middle institution, or the high level institution, power in running the government. So anyone who is heading those structures, they should be showing responsibility. So the just society emerges when each class performs its designated role in different hierarchy, different positions, and hence symbolizing just souls, means having just people, just minds. So the philosopher king embodies the ethical ideal, that is ruling with wisdom, ensuring that a society is aligned with the good, that is benefit for all. Now again, let's take the example of Nelson Mandela when he became the president in 1994 after the end of apartheid. He wanted to bring unity in the divided nation, and he used innovative ideas. Rather than he was not promoting what animosity on the basis of past hatred. Now our time has come, now we'll destroy the whites. Yes, that was not the perspective of Nelson Mandela. What has been done? Let us now move forward with what more balancing act. And for example, the best example is the Rugby World Cup. This is a very interesting story. And this is not a story, this is a reality. Now, Rugby was a popular sport in South Africa, and there was a team by the name Springbok. The Springbok was an all-white team. And it was symbolic of what? Racism. Now, but due to the apartheid, so that white team was not allowed to participate much in the global arenas because there were various restrictions on the South African white minority government. Even they were also debarred for playing cricket also. Now, but rugby was more popular. So when Nelson Mandela became the president after independence, he hosted the World Cup rugby tournament in 1995, where the Springbok, the team, represented South Africa. But now that many black leaders were against this initiative of Nelson Mandela, that you are promoting a white team again. But his concept was different. He stated that this is a way of what creating what empathy and sympathy in the white people, that a black president is promoting them now on the global arena. Now, that brought a change of mind in the captain of the rugby team. Now he tried to visualize that his team is being promoted by the person who was in prison for 27 years under our rule. So that brought a realization that we are no more the representative of the white minority, but we are a representative of the entire nation now. And what happened? First match, they had what match with a powerful Australian team which had won the previous rugby tournament. Nobody gave the chance to South African team to defeat the Australians. But now the zeal was different, energy was different. Hence, the defeated Australians climbed up the ladder, reached the semi-finals, finals, and they won the finals. Such was the craze that there were celebrations across South Africa. So the native people who are blacks were now dancing on the street to celebrate the white team's victory. Okay, so that was basically a symbolic of what? Yes, a person representing power with responsibility. Same TRC, Truth and Reconciliation Commission. That means creating a system what healing the wounds of the people on both the sides. So this is a symbol of what? That the person who is gaining the power is using his responsibility for what? The entire harmony and benefit of the people at large. This is a symbol of what? Philosopher King. Now, there's a very interesting documentary also if you find on Rugby World Cup. That is called the 16th Man. 16th Man is a real documentary on this issue, Rugby World Cup. And there's a Hollywood movie also on this. That movie is Invictus. Invictus. Yes, yes, Parth. Invictus. This is a Hollywood movie also. Okay, so knowledge is everywhere. You need to collect. Yes. Okay, knowledge is everywhere. You need to collect. 16 Men is the original documentary of original Nelson Mandela, and Invictus is the Hollywood version of that. Now, similarly, Abraham Lincoln is again a symbol of what? A philosopher king, because he put everything at risk. Yes, his own presidency, even the division of the United States during the Civil War, because he went forward for the abolition of slavery. And he finally abolished it, and he sacrificed his life for that. Now again, the Woodrow Wilson, after results of World War I, he came up with the concept, no, we should be creating a more peaceful and just world, hence the League of Nations. These are the previous examples. A recent example, Jacinda Ardern, the ex-Prime Minister of New Zealand. She resigned in 2023. At the height of her popularity, she was at the peak of her popularity, but she resigned at a young age of 42 years. She had run the country for last maybe 7 to 8 years. But now, after giving her best for the country, she had delivered very good during the COVID years, safeguarded the economy of the New Zealand, and what has been rated one of the best prime ministers in the world. Resigned at her peak by saying that what? Let's see her own words. I am leaving because with such a privileged role comes responsibility. That means with being a prime minister comes responsibility. The responsibility to know when you are the right person to lead. That should also be known by the prime minister. And also when you are not. I know what this job takes. And I know that I no longer have enough tank, means enough energy to do justice to it. It's that simple, so I am resigning. So even the people who are taking responsibility, it's a very responsible job. And I have fulfilled the responsibility. Though I may be peak of my career, I may be asked or demanded by the people to stay, but still inner feeling is sad that I have to move out. So these are showing that a real quality leadership where the power have been used responsibly. So power can either create a boss or a leader. The boss who impose, the boss who only works for himself, boss who ultimately shows himself, okay, takes all the credit, and a leader who ultimately is a philosopher king. So boss or a leader. So we have done this in the class. So boss always takes credit. I always say that I have done everything. Folks knows everywhere, micromanages, keeps on criticizing, focus on weaknesses, blames others, always keeps on directing, speaks more, inspire fear, and just keep on instructing. But a leader with responsibility believes in collectiveness. We gives credit to others, not takes the credit. Distribute the works, delegates the work. Keeps on encouraging. Focusing on the strength of the country, the people. Takes responsibility. That means accountability. If something went wrong, that means taking the accountability, owning it. Something went right, then not owning it, giving the credit to others. A good leader is that in case of a problem, taking the ownership. In case of what? Or good performance, giving credit to others. A good leader who coach. A good leader who listens more, who provides enthusiasms, and who actually asks for opinions. So here, so power can be used in two ways, either becoming a boss or becoming a real leader. So what is the solution? Can we create good leaders? So what is the solution here? Now, even Ashoka's first pillar, signs of a good leader. A leader should govern by righteousness, that is, right actions. A leader should provide administration, again by taking right actions. To please my subjects, again to make them happy, by right actions. And again to protect them, by right actions. So what is the solution? Is strong democracy a counter to Machiavelli? Can a strong democracy nurture leaders with responsibilities? Now, that is why it comes to the concept about popular sovereignty. So, John Locke, in terms of his social contract, he stated that a government is required that is accountable to the people. Then we can keep a check on the leadership. It should be run by the consent of the governed, that is popular will. It should have what? Separation of power, because we know concentration of power leads to what? Arrogance, leads to more misutilization. So Locke advocated for separation of legislative and executive powers to prevent any single entity from becoming tyrannical. And he also talked about right to devolution. If the king is unjust, unfair, is tyrannical, that means the people have the right to even overthrow that. As we have seen in Bangladesh recently, we have seen what Sri Lanka also. Okay, that means so all this. So John Locke. Now, when we are talking about India, popular sovereignty, do we have got enough provisions in our constitution for getting right leaders? So that means we have, first of all, we have a properly written constitution so as to guide us. We are doing this at this moment in the governance classes, ethics and governance classes. Now, why elected government? Because elected government is a service provider. And it needs to safeguard the customers, that is the people. That is why elected government should be strengthening the fundamental rights so as to safeguard against the autocracy of state. Hence again a check on the absolute power of the people who are at the top. Again, the government as service provider needs to provide best services to customers, hence focusing on bringing benefits by applying the principles of DPSP. Again, in Indian system, there is a division of power, separation of power at the top, bicameral parliament, that is within the parliament also, devolution power, 3 levels, and proper division of work by lists. That means we have bifurcated the work in such a manner, there is no concentration of power. Now, when the division of work is there, we also have got a system of monitoring and evaluation. That means things should be run by rule of law, so as to keep a check on what? Power-based corruptions. We have to strengthen the freedom of press and media. Autonomous constitutional institutions should be made more free and fair and powerful, like Election Commission, CAG, UPSC. And there should be more monitoring and evaluation by the non-state actors to keep a check on the state actors so that the power concentration and power-based corruptions or power-induced corruption can be reduced. For example, vote, power of vote. Now, power of vote is very, very important. If the voting is being done on real issues, if the voters are highly informed, then definitely it's a pressure on the ruling parties in power to keep on working in a better manner for the people. Otherwise, they can be replaced anytime with a new government in next elections. RTI, that is powerful RTI system, it should be there. We are talking about the problems in RTI in the governance part, but how to PIL, powerful social audit methods, citizen charters, creation of more pressure groups. All these are a way of what creating a check on the power. Peaceful protest. That means we have all these things in our system for creating a check on the person who is at the top of the power, and hence that person can be prevented from becoming corrupt, so that that person is forced to act in a manner so as to get better governance for the people. We have got things in place, but we need to improve that. Hence, how to strengthen? So we have discussed political party reforms and electoral reforms. Now, for example, if we have what 50% of the member of parliaments having criminal records, that is not a sign of what bringing betterment for the people. That is going to create what more corruption, more corrupt people, corrupt heads, or corrupt mind. That means we have to bring reforms, and the reforms we have done in detail. So there are around 14-15 reforms in this category, okay, which is going to open up now these reforms we have discussed with respect to what filtering out criminal elements from politics, and in place of them filtering in better and more ethical people. Better and more ethical people. Filtering out criminal elements from politics and filtering in more ethical people. And in this category, there are 14 consecutive reforms. When these consecutive reforms are initiated comprehensively, then this situation of what getting better people in the power structures and hence ensuring yes, power with responsibility. So that means a strong democracy with what strong democratic governance reforms can usher in the period of what getting leaders who display power with responsibility. Very clear? Two versions we have done, and finally we talked about solutions. Now let's take one more essay. All ideas having large consequences are always simple. That means the ideas which have brought huge changes in the way of doing things were initially very simple in nature. For example, idea of a democracy and popular sovereignty that emerged in an era of very strong monarchy, like by John Locke or Voltaire or Rousseau in France. Yes. That means there was a time period of very strong monarchy, and the idea of what democracy and popular will emerging with voting rights to the people has brought larger changes which led to what abolition of monarchy forever. Okay, so that means, so he's saying that all ideas having large consequences are always simple. So here started the process of empowering all in contrast to monarchy, where the monarchy was completely dominant. Now, how to ultimately dilute or dominate or destroy the monarchy forever? Give power to all. And that power to all emerged from what? Voting rights to all. Okay, so voting rights to all become the very simple idea to destroy a powerful institution like monarchy. Now, as we talked about satyagraha and non-violence, in an era where the violence was the norm, violence was the norm. In an era, violence was the norm. Violence was linked with heroism. Coming with the idea of non-violence to challenge the violent colonial rule, and with success also. And this idea was borrowed by even civil rights movement in USA also, or by Nelson Mandela also. Now, even across the world through peaceful protest, the Gandhian way, have worked in various areas with larger success. Even when you talk about a civil disobedience movement, salt satyagraha, a simple idea of what? Picking up a salt, because salt is concerned with life of all people, and hence impacted the mobilization of all the people towards that movement. So idea to protest against the salt tax spread within the masses, as it was a daily necessity, and it shook the mighty colonial power. So that means simple ideas, we're talking about having the larger consequences. Even the slogan of do and die, quit India movement, again got what connection with the larger masses. Even when the bigger leaders were arrested, that does not mean the movement stopped. It exploded more. Now, idea of Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa. Again, you can use the sports as a uniting factor, Rugby World Cup idea. Now, idea of what self-help groups. We started in India with the organization called SEVA, Self-Employed Women Association, for the socio-economic upliftment of women, for reducing gender discrimination, for empowering the women. Now, education to all is also an idea for empowerment for all, which has got larger benefits if properly applied. So this leads to what? Mass awareness and what? Changes in society. Health to all. Again, creating a productive society. SDGs, again sustainable development goals, are the simple ideas. If properly applied, they got lasting impact on shaping and reshaping the entire humanity at large. So 17 SDGs, very simple ideas for mass transformations. Rainwater harvesting is a very simple idea, which have been the culture of the past also. We have got a culture of Bawdis. Now that again has to be revived again more and more. The rainwater harvesting methods, because India is one of the most water stressed country, and every village has to be made what water self-sufficient. And the best way what recharging, creating more water harvesting methods like wells, the ponds, the Bawdis, the lakes, the ponds. So rainwater harvesting for dealing with what? Water scarcity or water problems. Afforestation, again to prevent desertification. And waste management, not only for cleanliness, but also for circular economy. That is recycling. That is also for health, better health, prevention of diseases. So cleanliness, circular economy, recycling, health, prevention of diseases. And prevention of diseases means reducing health expenses. That is out of the pocket individual health expenses also, and the at society level overall health expenses. So all these are the ideas which have got larger consequences if And let's talk about certain ideas which were ideas which were emerging from what discoveries and inventions, like the invention of wheel. And that wheel has helped in what? Or traveling across the world. Huge transportations, foods, goods movement, yes, shaping the economies. Now, invention of zero has revolutionized the entire mathematics, the entire scientific world, from the basic calculations to the space exploration. Okay, the zero. Germs, that the microorganisms like germs are the root causes of various diseases, has led to what? Transform the medicines, the creation of antibiotics, the vaccines. Now, idea of natural selections, which was promoted by Charles Darwin, has led to what? Evolution of biology. Modern understanding of evolution, genetics, and biodiversity. And what? Improving fields like medicine, psychology, anthropology. And when we talk about the business world, the simple your bhayi khata, yes, okay, that is bookkeeping, debit and credit, has entirely transformed the way of doing business. So recording financial transactions, so laid the foundation of modern accounting and finance, supporting capitalism, trade, and what? Complex economic systems. So what this topic is saying, that small ideas always create bigger changes. That means we should be creating an open environment and system of generating more and more ideas in the society and country. Round earth, we have talked about. In short, simple ideas revolutionize the things. Yes, in short, simple ideas brings revolution in different fields. So hence, what is the requirement of this topic now? Hence, the requirement is to promote ideas, innovations, simplification processes for improvement. That means we should be creating a system. We should be creating an environment in the schools, colleges, the laboratories, in the societies, in such a manner that more and more ideas are being supported. So again, you can quote Albert Einstein, education not learning many facts, but training the mind to think. Because a thinking mind always gives rise to ideas. So this can be done by avoiding rote learning. This can be done by promoting multidisciplinary education. This can be done by promoting conceptual learning, creating what? More culture of debates and discussions. Yes, I.
Sir, rote learning, like, could you just tell two lines about it? Is it just memorizing the things that we study?
Memorizing, yes. Okay. So what has been given in question answer, just memorize and what? Vomit in the examination. Okay, so that is rote learning. Okay, now, so hence focus on multidisciplinary education, conceptual learning, creating culture of debates and discussions, focus on research and development, support to grassroots innovations. Innovations, for example, in Hindi, we call them jugaad. And these are very crude innovations, which are also what? Very environment friendly also. They are required to be upgraded and promoted more and more. Even for example, when you talk about a person like Sonam Wangchuk, promoting grassroots innovations. Okay, so that means there, and here it's not only that area. India is filled with what? Grassroots innovations. So those ideas are required to be what? What? Highlighted more and more, upgraded more and more, and promoted more and more. That means there should be a system and culture of what? Promoting ideas. And ideas always create solutions. And even use of simple tools of information, education, communication for reaching for mass awareness. We talked about community radio in the class. So we talked about use of what? We use about what? Use of movies, thematic movies, documentaries in reaching to the people. We talked about identifying the right workers in a society through influencers. Okay, so using of innovative ideas in terms of even information, education, communication, for making aware people more aware, and hence these aware people will be giving rise to different set of ideas or new ideas then. Now we talked about cultural centers, creation of cultural centers for calendar-based seminars, workshops for ideating, only for sharing of ideas, discussion of ideas. And this will be giving rise to more startups and entrepreneurship, means bringing benefit. So what this topic is talking about, the ideas always revolutionize. That means we should be creating a culture of what? Promoting more ideas, generation of more ideas. So I have just given the hint. Yes, you are going to shape that. Okay, so now, culture centers, all these were discussed in detail in the essay classes. Okay, and this cost of being wrong is less than cost of doing nothing. That means it's basically talking about action versus inaction. If you try, there can be what failures, but not trying at all is the biggest mistake. Clear? So a cost of being wrong is less than the cost of doing nothing. So this topic is between action versus inaction. So that means there should always be initiatives. There should always be efforts. There should always be trials. There always should be what? Actions for improvements. That means all these may lead to failure also and success also. But failures or success will emerge only when you try. So initiatives, efforts, trials, and actions for improvement. Again, it is talking about that we need to challenge the status quo. We need to improve. And improvement requires what? Taking actions which can either result in success or failure. But not doing anything to improve is actually the biggest disaster. That is more costly. So hence, I am giving you an idea. What is common among achievers, explorers, discoverers, inventors, reformers, and leaders? These were the people of actions. These are people of actions. And it is their ability to set new limits. So they do not fall into the trap of inaction or comfort or conformity or status quo. Conformity is status quo. Hence, when we read about explorers like Marco Polo, Vasco da Gama, took all the risk in their lives to open up new routes to different countries and civilizations. Inventors or discoverers, Edison is the prime example. Many times failures resulting in what? Success. And this has been the story of all the Nobel laureates. Because when the people are getting the Nobel Prizes, when we talk about science, is a result of what? Enormous failures, finally a success. Reformers, challenging the status quo of the society. Leaders, new ideas, and challenge the status quo. That means all these are symbolic of actions. Either they succeed or not. It's a secondary. But not taking actions at all is basically the biggest disaster or is more costly. Even coming of League of Nations initially did not succeed, but ultimately gave rise to what? More stable institution, UNO, United Nations Organization, in 1945 onwards. NAM, again, is a challenge to what? A world which was emerging in two blocks. Now, SEVA, that is an initiative for uplifting the women life by creating self-help groups, is a action which has resulted in success by empowering the women at large. That is taking actions. Now, Amul movement, that is creating successful cooperatives, taking actions again for improving the life of the people, making them what? Partners in their own production. So what this topic is talking about, that there's a requirement of taking initiatives if we want to improve. Taking no action is the biggest disaster. Tarun Bharat Sangh, for example, in an organization, or Pani Foundation, the organization is working on what? Community driven, community led, community trained water conservation practices. That means water scarcity in the villages, not taking action will lead to migration. But what is the action initiative here is rainwater harvesting, so that the people are not forced to migrate. Our people are able to start their livelihoods again. So actions. So action, this also applies to the all-round development of the country. How active is the country in bringing changes? Is the country believing in status quo or maintaining the problems? Or the country is taking actions for improving its profile? For example, how the profile of the country is being measured? Profile of the country is being measured on the basis of what? International global rankings. And we know when we see our country, it's low in various rankings. So what is the action part here is try to improve those rankings. Start taking effective measures. So I'm dealing this topic in a little different manner now. Here I'm taking this in the country at large. So that means here I'm recommending actions to improve the country as a whole. Not taking action will lead to what? Again, remaining the lower part in the rankings forever. That will not be increasing the reputation of the country. So here, the low global rankings like SDI, human development, democracy, environment, press freedom, hunger index. So there are two ways. Either improve, and improvement requires serious actions, or remain low. And this can happen due to inactions. And these inactions will be costly for the country. So now explain actions and initiatives for rise of the nation across all indicators of development: democracy, governance, economic, social, and scientific. And for this, I gave a formula in the class. I gave a formula in class. Let me, and that formula is, let me show. That formula is now. So this is based on two things. First is strengthening values in society. And here we talked about values based education. We talk about activities to shape better habits. And this activities included use of sports by creating culture of sports, use of culture of musical activities, which includes dance, drama, theater, culture. At the grassroots level, cultural sports at grassroots level for changing the habits for the better. Then we talked about certainty of punishment methods. That is to improve what daily habits, that is following rule of law, that is following of rule of law. Then we talk about certainty of punishment or certainty of praise, that is highlighting best practices. And create ranking systems for competition at local level, at city level, at national level for holistic improvement. That means how to shape the nation across all the indicators. First of all, we have to plant basic values. Values can be value-based education, that is in schools and colleges. Various activities shape habits. Cultural sports to shape various habits which emerge, positive habits which can emerge from sports. Culture of music at a grassroots where the positivity can be imparted in various habits, thinking, intermixing, respect for each other culture, respect, inclusion, certainty of punishment to create what punishment for the daily deviations like the traffic rules and regulations, throwing of waste here and there, hence correcting the mindsets, certainty of praise by highlighting the best practices in different areas, and then using that as a ranking parameters, hence creating competition among communities, cities. Now, then we talked about second part, which is equally important, is distributive justice. Distributive justice. So that means two things that we have to work out. First part is strengthening of the values in society by all these methods. And distributive justice. We know if we are strengthening the values, values will only be sustained when there are lesser inequalities in society. Values will be strong when there are what? More equality of status and opportunity. So in distributive justice, now political justice should be strengthened. Economic justice should be strengthened. Social justice should be strengthened, and environmental justice should be strengthened. And to work on both of these, what is required? Better governance is required. Better governance is required. Now, what this clearly shows. Now, if we improve governance, so country will be rising in the democracy index. If we improve in the economic justice index, that means we will be building more businesses, more livelihoods, and that means rising standard of living. Ending poverty. That means also hunger. So we will be rising in the hunger index, rising in what? Even the standards of living. Social, that means gender also. Gender justice, so gender inequality index, we will be what? Improving. So social. Environment, we will also be rising in the environment index. So that means challenging the status quo becomes important. And here actions are required at the national level. And the national level actions are there. It will lead to emergence of a country higher in the rankings of various global rankings. And that will be the biggest gift for the country at large and for its people. Very clear. So, so we have discussed about around 6 essays. Okay. So I hope you have got enough confidence that you can at least deal with them. See, essays are only tricky when you are trying to understand the meaning of the topic. But that tricky nature, if you are able to deal with, you can only deal with the tricky nature only if you have comprehensively read first of all. For example, you have comprehensively covered the GS syllabus, you will be having a way of analyzing the things. When you're comprehensively able to connect your current affairs with your GS, again you will be able to analyze the thing in the current context also. And once this type of IQ is better, then what it will lead to? It will lead to what? Even decoding any GS answer also in the GS papers, and also even essays in the essay paper. And that is a knowledge that is not immediately generated. It's a at least a year-long exercise. Okay, so it's a filtration. That's why essay becomes the entry point for the UPSC main examination. It's the paper number 1. And the paper number 1 is the challenging one. If you do good in the essay paper, it will be creating more enthusiasm to do the other remaining papers. If you falter in the first, it will what destroy your energy and enthusiasm. So that's why it's going to open up the gate for final selection. Okay. So on this note, so just try. As we discussed, I will be sharing with the rest of the people. Those who are new, Akash, I know, and the rest, if they are there, just drop me a message. Okay. So I'll be sharing this document with them, and try to write. Okay. Try to write at least one essay. Now fully. Yes, Parth.
So thank you, sir. It was really, it gave confidence now.
You have all the content, you have got all the knowledge. Yes. Now, only thing is,
I couldn't, sir, I couldn't begin, to be very honest. You gave an assignment. I was not able to begin these ideas. So at least now I have a guide. So secondly, sir, I wanted to ask, the EIP program is part of the Achieve program on a larger.
Yes. Everything.
Okay. And sir, from October, you said we'll have on Saturday answer writing.
At least 2 Saturday in a month. 2 Saturday in the month. We'll be having writing classes that may also include case studies, also include essays also. It will be a combination. Few GS answers, 1 or 2 case studies, and 1 essay.
Okay, beyond prelims. So this beyond objective prelims.
So as we are starting from 1st of October, 1st of October will be all the portions which are common in pre and mains. So July, August, and September, we have done mostly topics which are only mains specific. But still, prelims is far away. But we have to pick up those areas which are common in pre and mains. That means our answer writing part, the essay part, the case studies part will continue. So if we are doing history from 1st October, we'll also be including history questions and answer of not only the MCQs, but also the history mains answer also.
That's what, sir. So Saturdays will also alternate in some way.
Alternate Saturdays will be what? GS answer writing, the case study, 1 or 2 case studies, and 1 essay at least.
Got it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's meet tomorrow with the resuming of what ethics remaining classes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.